My friends, I do not want you to buy a new car. Single worst financial decision you'll ever make. Here's why. Buy a brand new car.
Well, I think we found this week's episode of Dealership View. So, I'm your host, Shayne Couillard, and on this week's episode, we're going to talk about why buying a new car could be a good idea. So, earlier in the day I was doing a search, I was on a website, I was looking for Google searches for a totally different project, something totally unrelated to this, but I typed in, I think, the word car or cars in order to see what comes up, see what people are looking for in Google. Well, one of the things that came up, and it had a lot of traction when it came out, I think the article's from 2018, was an article on CNBC by a guy named, it's not written by, but it's from him, so to speak, David Bach. Now, the title of the article was, Buying a New Car is the Single Worst Financial Decision. So, it caught my attention, so I had to watch the video. Well, there's some things he's right about, and there's some things that is not totally accurate. So, I mean, the first thing I have to attest to, I have to argue with, I am sure that spending $14 to $30 per day on fast food, or going to the bar with your buddies every weekend and spending a couple $100, I am sure those things are actually a bigger waste of money than buying a new car and having it depreciate a bit. Now, with that being said, if anybody goes and looks at the article, and it's really easy to find, the value drops 20 to 30% is one of his biggest points. You buy a new car and the value of the car drops 20 to 30%. I totally agree. He's 100% right on that. If you buy a new vehicle and it becomes a used vehicle as soon as you have it, the car's worth less money. You start putting mileage on it, it's not a new vehicle, it's a used vehicle, they depreciate. That's the market, that's the way this all works. Now, when it comes to depreciation, yeah, buying a used car, it serves us a lot better when it comes to depreciation. But I have to make a little bit of a point here. I don't think that as a consumer, you guys are buying cars in order to try to have them appreciate and go up in value. Nobody expects them to increase in value. You're buying a product, you're buying something physical that you're going to use, and you're hopefully going to use for a long time. So really, at the end of the day, if you buy that car and you get 10 years of use out of it, or you buy a used car and you get 10 years of use out of it, does it really matter? If you like the new car, and if that new car does cost you more than a used car, and if it does depreciate a bit, does it really matter if you get the same use out of the vehicle? Now, this brings me to my next point. He makes another good point and mentions that most customers borrow money when they buy a new or a used car. True, absolutely true. The majority of customers out there, they do finance. There's a percentage of customers that do cut a check to buy a vehicle. But here's my real point. If you buy a vehicle for $15,000 and you finance it and it's a used car and you pay 6 to 7% interest on that car, or you buy a $25,000 brand new vehicle and you finance it at 0%, it looks like a $10,000 gap, but it's not. That price difference is not $10,000 because you have to account for that 6 or 7% of interest that you're paying on the used car that you're not paying for on the new car. And in some cases, you will pay a little bit of interest on new. But as a consumer, this is what you have to look at. You need to look at the gap. You don't need to, he makes another good point, don't look at the payments. This is about what it costs you per year, and I'm going to argue that it's what it costs you over the entire course of the term to own and drive that vehicle. It's the whole total cost of it is what you have to look at. So that $15,000 car, once you put interest in it, might be 18 grand, might be 19, it depends, but it's going to be more money than $15,000. So now that gap shrinks between what it costs you to buy that used car and what it costs you to buy a new car, which now is not 10 grand, it might be $6,000. And for $6,000, does it make sense? What if that used car has 50,000 kilometers on it? $6,000 is a lot of, that's good money for 50,000 kilometers, and it's gonna be 50,000 kilometers and a couple years of value. It's not gonna just be $6,000 to buy something that's new and maybe has a couple more toys in it, which, by the way, it probably has more stuff in it too. So you're getting more intrinsic value out of the car. So here's what I did. I went and picked an example. I had to prove it to myself. You know, we talk about this stuff every day, and we are a new car dealer, but we sell lots of used cars too. I'm on both sides, but I had to pick an example. So what I did was I picked an example of a truck. I went and I actually found a Ford product so I could compare to. I grabbed a 2016 F-150. It was a Lariat. The truck retails, I have one actually very similar, similar price point, but the truck actually retails for about $43,995. It has, I think it had between 60 and 70,000 kilometers on it. So what I did was I priced that truck. I put it in the system, I built it, and I priced it. So that truck is $44,000, call it, let's round up here. And I ran a 5-year finance on it, and I ran it at 6.99. Now, the first argument that some customers are gonna have is, hey, I can get a better rate than 6.99. Well, on a car loan, if you go to the bank, not necessarily. We might be able to achieve a better rate for our customers, but I'm using that as an example. The average interest rate right now, I just seen a stat on it, paid by customers in Ontario is 6.24%. So we're pretty darn close here. I came up with a monthly payment on that truck of $986.63 a month. Then I took a brand new truck and I built it essentially the same. I had one in stock, so I grabbed this one. This truck actually has an option or two extra on it. This truck that I priced, it lists out at $71,000. The sale price on it after discounts and rebates, because you have to remember, $71,000 truck is not $71,000. That truck is $57,855. Okay.
Mike service line 1, please.
So with that being said, if I take 57,855, take out 43,900. Right there, okay, it's $13,860, but it's not. Here's the thing. My payments on that brand new truck, which, by the way, it's not 0% right now, there's actually even a little bit of interest on this. My payments are $1,204.59 over the same term. I didn't stretch out the term to make payments make more sense. This is over the same term, guys.
Ron Giles line.
That's a difference in payment of $217.96. With that being said, if I take my $217.96 and we times it by 12 times 5, oddly enough, it works out after tax
Service line 1, please.
to being pretty close to that difference that we just talked about by the time you put everything together. But after tax, what that means is that this brand new truck is $13,077.60 more money than a 2016. That being said, I gotta ask everybody, you know, to go up a year and back 70,000 kilometers. I mean, if we're going up 3 years, that's $4,359 per year on the vehicle, which intrinsically doesn't mean a whole lot. It's just when the vehicle was built. Let's be real here. But at the end of the day, if you're gaining 60 or 70,000 kilometers for $13,000, there's a whole lot of value in that.
Andrea, line 2.
At the end of the day, if you go and let's say you buy that used truck. You buy that used truck, it's $13,000 less, that's great. Well, now you bought a truck with 60 or 70,000 kilometers, and if you're one of these people who is gonna drive it till it has 300,000 kilometers on it, you're getting less truck. You save $13,000, but if you drive 20,000 kilometers a year, there's 3 years less driving you can do on it. So would $13,000 not be worth spending the extra $13,000? I get it, guys. Hey, buying a used car in some situations makes sense. There are certain vehicles that, I mean, the car market, take trucks and SUVs out of the equation, but the car market, maybe it does make sense to buy a used car. They depreciate quickly. You know, the numbers on buying a used one probably make more sense, but in all reality, the majority of the market's buying SUVs and trucks anyways. So as I scroll through this now, you know, it references 3, 4, 5 different articles that, you know, all these finance experts and some big names in here are saying, no, you buy a used car. No, you always buy a used car. Well, maybe if you're writing out a check and it's real cash for that used car, maybe it does make more sense. But on a lot of these vehicles that are popular today and the price points that they are, I am going to stand by the fact that new, in some cases, I think I just proved it, makes more sense for the cost difference. than actually going out and buying a used car. It really, really does. So I guess my message for everybody out there, and everybody uses the internet as a tool to learn, you really have to pay attention. You really have to look at what is the actual difference. Because I'm gonna tell you, if you buy a used vehicle and you realize at the end of the day, by the time you put interest in it, that you could have bought a new one for $10,000 more, gone up 3 years, saved yourself 70,000 kilometers, put yourself into full factory warranty, which is a nice convenience to have. And this brings me to one last point. Guys, if I buy a vehicle with 70,000 kilometers on it, once you hit 80, 90, 100,000 K on a car, there's different maintenance costs that start to come into play. Those maintenance costs are the bigger ones. The vehicle's getting aged. It's gonna need certain things that aren't gonna cost you $79.95 for a works package, which is oil change and tire rotation and a couple other things, brake inspection. Now you're gonna have to spend that $700, for example, on a tune-up or whatever it costs. So when you take into account the actual maintenance cost as well and what it's costing you to drive that used vehicle, that 13 grand is not going to be 13 grand, guys. It's going to start breaking down and reducing quite a bit at the end of the day. So back to my message, guys, pay attention. Don't believe everything that you read on the internet. You have to do the numbers and you have to look at it for yourself, and it's situational depending on what you're buying. Like I said, buying some of this cheaper stuff in the market, these cheaper used vehicles, it probably makes sense to buy used. When you start pushing that price point and buying, this David guy suggests buying 2-year off-lease vehicles. A 2-year off-lease F-150 loaded is probably not going to make sense from what I'm seeing here. Maybe it does depending on how you're paying for it. But at the end of the day, work with your dealer, sit down with them, go over the numbers, compare a new to a used, and make the decision as to what's best for you. There is nothing that's clean cut and written in stone. If it was written in stone and it was way better to buy used cars, then nobody would buy new cars and I wouldn't be working here. The reason why we have both is because in certain situations, one makes more sense than the other. And at the end of the day, you guys are the ones buying the car and you have to make a decision for yourself. Where does the intrinsic value lie for you? That's it, guys. That's my little bit of a rant on the article that I seen. My name's Shayne Couillard. This was your episode of Dealership View. Have a fantastic rest of your week.